Marcus Chen had always been unremarkable. At 24, he stood average height with brown hair and quiet eyes that seemed to absorb everything without judgment. His fellow soldiers in the Terran Defense Corps often forgot he was there until someone needed ammunition counted or equipment checked. Marcus performed every task with methodical precision, never complaining, never seeking attention. The war against the Zephyrian Empire had raged for 3 years across 17 star systems. Humanity fought desperately against an enemy that possessed superior technology, overwhelming numbers, and a ruthless efficiency that had crushed dozens of other species. The Zephyrians viewed humans as nothing more than another primitive race to be enslaved or eliminated. Marcus served in the 47th Infantry Regiment stationed on Kepler 442b, a frontier world that held strategic importance due to its rare mineral deposits. The planet's red soil and twin suns created an alien landscape that reminded him of old Mars colony photos. Most days passed in routine patrols, equipment maintenance, and training exercises that felt increasingly pointless as reports arrived of human defeats across the galaxy. Lieutenant Sarah Morrison commanded Marcus's squad with the kind of fierce determination that kept soldiers alive. She had noticed something different about the quiet private during their 6 months together. While other soldiers cracked under pressure or made mistakes during combat drills, Marcus remained steady. His accuracy scores were exceptional. But more importantly, he seemed to predict enemy movements before they happened. The morning everything changed began like any other. Marcus cleaned his rifle in the pre-dawn darkness while his squadmates slept. The familiar weight of the weapon in his hands provided comfort in an uncertain universe. Intelligence reports suggested Zephyrian scout ships had been spotted near the system's edge, but similar warnings had proven false countless times before. Colonel Hayes briefed the regiment about increased patrol schedules and defensive preparations. The Zephyrians rarely attacked frontier worlds directly, preferring to strike at major population centers and military strongholds. Kepler 442b seemed too insignificant to warrant their attention, which made it perfect for the mining operations that fueled humanity's war effort. Marcus's squad drew perimeter duty near the eastern mining complex. The assignment meant a long day walking through rocky terrain under the harsh glare of binary stars. Most soldiers hated perimeter duty, but Marcus found the solitude peaceful. He could think clearly away from the constant chatter and nervous energy of the base. The squad moved through their patrol route with practiced efficiency. Private Jackson complained about the heat, while Corporal Stevens made jokes about the strange rock formations that dotted the landscape. Marcus walked point, scanning the horizon through his rifle scope and listening to the subtle sounds that indicated normalcy or danger. The attack came without warning. Zephyrian dropships descended from orbit like metallic thunderbolts, their engines screaming through the thin atmosphere. Energy weapons lit up the sky as defensive batteries engaged the invaders, but the enemy had achieved complete tactical surprise. Marcus watched in horror as plasma beams turned the main base into a burning crater, visible even from their distant position. Lieutenant Morrison's voice crackled through their communicators, steady despite the chaos erupting around them. The Zephyrians had deployed ground forces near all major installations. The 47th Infantry Regiment was cut off from reinforcements and facing an enemy force at least 10 times their number. The 1st Zephyrian Patrol found Marcus's squad 30 minutes after the initial attack. The aliens moved through the rocky terrain with predatory grace, their insectoid forms covered in advanced battle armor that shimmered with energy shields. Each warrior stood nearly 8 feet tall, with 4 arms that could wield weapons independently. Marcus felt something change inside him as he watched the enemy approach. The fear and uncertainty that had plagued him throughout his military service vanished, replaced by a cold clarity that sharpened his senses beyond human norms. Time seemed to slow as his mind processed tactical information with computer-like precision. The engagement lasted less than 2 minutes. Marcus's rifle spoke with mechanical rhythm, each shot finding gaps in Zephyrian armor that shouldn't have been visible to human eyes. He moved through the rocky terrain like flowing water, always one step ahead of enemy fire. When the shooting stopped, 6 Zephyrian warriors lay dead, while Marcus's squad remained unharmed. Lieutenant Morrison stared at him with amazement, and something approaching fear. She had seen skilled soldiers before, but what Marcus had just accomplished defied explanation. His movements during the firefight had been inhuman in their efficiency, as if he could predict exactly where each enemy would be before they moved. The squad's radio crackled with desperate transmissions from other units under attack. The Zephyrians were systematically destroying human positions across the planet. Estimates suggested the entire regiment would be eliminated within hours unless something changed dramatically. Marcus reloaded his weapon with the same methodical care he had always shown, but now his squadmates watched him with new respect. The quiet private who had seemed so ordinary was revealing capabilities that none of them suspected. When he spoke, his voice carried an authority that hadn't been there before. The plan formed in his mind with startling clarity. The Zephyrians had established a command post near the central mining facility to coordinate their planetary assault. If that command structure could be disrupted, the scattered human forces might have a chance to regroup and counterattack. It would require penetrating enemy lines that were considered impenetrable by conventional forces. Lieutenant Morrison listened as Marcus outlined a strategy that seemed impossible. He spoke of enemy patrol patterns he shouldn't have been able to observe, weapon vulnerabilities that intelligence services had never discovered, and tactical movements that violated every principle of military doctrine. Yet something in his quiet confidence made her believe it might work. The transformation was beginning, though none of them understood what was happening. Marcus Chen, the unremarkable soldier who had spent months being overlooked and underestimated, was becoming something that would make the Zephyrian Empire fear a single human name. The legend of the Reaper was about to be born in blood and fire on a distant world under alien suns. As the squad prepared to move deeper into enemy territory, Marcus felt the weight of destiny settling around him like armor. He had always been different, but now that difference would serve humanity in ways that would echo across the galaxy. The Zephyrians had made a fatal error when they chose to test human resolve on this particular world. The war was about to change, and Marcus Chen would be the instrument of that change. His rifle felt different in his hands now, more like an extension of his will than a simple weapon. Each step forward carried him closer to a confrontation that would define not just his own fate, but the future of the human species in their struggle against alien domination. The enemy had no idea what was coming for them. Soon, they would learn why humans had earned their place among the stars, through determination, adaptability, and a capacity for warfare that could transform even the most ordinary soldier into an instrument of vengeance. Marcus was about to show the galaxy what humanity could accomplish when pushed beyond its limits. The legend would begin with whispers and grow into a roar that would reach every corner of Zephyrian space. But first, there was work to do on a small frontier world, where an unremarkable soldier was about to become something extraordinary. The journey to the Zephyrian command post took Marcus's squad through territory that had become a killing field. Smoke rose from burning human installations while alien patrols swept through the landscape with methodical efficiency. The enemy moved in formations that had conquered worlds across the galaxy, confident in their technological superiority and numerical advantage. Marcus led his team along routes that shouldn't have existed, finding paths through enemy positions that intelligence manuals claimed were impossible. He seemed to understand Zephyrian tactical doctrine better than officers who had studied it for years. Every movement was calculated to avoid detection, while positioning them for maximum tactical advantage. The transformation continued as they advanced deeper into hostile territory. Marcus's senses had sharpened beyond normal human limits, allowing him to detect enemy positions through combinations of sound, smell, and intuition that defied rational explanation. His squadmates followed him with growing amazement as he navigated them through deadly situations that should have resulted in their immediate destruction. The second engagement occurred near a destroyed communications relay. A Zephyrian patrol had established an observation post among the twisted metal remains, their advanced sensors sweeping the surrounding area for human survivors. The position was perfectly defended with overlapping fields of fire and energy barriers that could stop conventional weapons. Marcus studied the position for exactly 90 seconds before moving. He flowed through the debris field like a shadow, his rifle finding targets with supernatural precision. The Zephyrians never understood what was happening to them, One moment they controlled the tactical situation completely. The next moment they were dying without ever seeing their attacker clearly. Corporal Stevens watched in stunned silence as Marcus eliminated an entire enemy squad without taking a single hit. The private moved through the battlefield as if he could see the future. Always in the right position at the right time. His shots came with mechanical precision, each one finding the exact weak point in Zephyrian armor that would guarantee an instant kill. Lieutenant Morrison began to understand they were witnessing something unprecedented. Military history contained stories of exceptional soldiers who performed incredible feats under extreme circumstances, but Marcus was displaying capabilities that seemed to transcend normal human limitations. His transformation was accelerating with each engagement, as if combat was unlocking abilities that had always existed but remained dormant. The squad acquired additional equipment from fallen enemies, including energy weapons that Marcus handled with the same expertise he showed with human technology. He modified alien devices in ways that their original designers never intended, turning defensive tools into instruments of destruction, with intuitive understanding that bordered on the supernatural. Word of their success began spreading through the scattered remnants of the 47th Infantry Regiment. Reports filtered in from other units, describing impossible victories against overwhelming odds, always involving a small team led by an unnamed soldier who fought like something beyond human understanding. The stories grew with each telling, but the core facts remained consistent. The Zephyrians started changing their tactics in response to losses they couldn't explain. Patrol patterns became erratic as field commanders struggled to understand how their forces were being eliminated with such efficiency. The humans responsible for these attacks seemed to anticipate every countermeasure before it was implemented, staying always one step ahead of alien military thinking. Marcus's next target was a mobile command unit coordinating Zephyrian artillery strikes against human positions. The vehicle was protected by an entire company of elite warriors, using equipment that could defeat any known human weapon. Conventional military doctrine would require at least a full regiment to assault such a position successfully. The attack came at dawn when the alien guards were changing shifts. Marcus had spent hours studying their routine, memorizing every detail of their security procedures, with the same methodical precision he had once applied to equipment maintenance. The assault lasted 12 minutes from beginning to end. The Zephyrian commander never understood what was happening. His warriors began dying in precise sequence, their deaths creating gaps in the defensive perimeter that shouldn't have been exploitable. Marcus moved through their positions like a force of nature, his rifle speaking with deadly accuracy while he remained invisible to their advanced targeting systems. The command vehicle itself fell silent when Marcus placed explosive charges in locations that guaranteed maximum destruction with minimal resources. The resulting explosion could be seen from orbit, a pillar of fire that announced the beginning of the end for Zephyrian control of Kepler 442b. That was when the name first appeared on enemy communications. Zephyrian field reports began mentioning an unknown human designated as the Reaper, who seemed capable of eliminating entire units single-handedly. Intelligence officers dismissed these reports as combat stress and exaggeration, but the pattern of losses was becoming impossible to ignore. Marcus felt the weight of the emerging legend as his squad regrouped near the destroyed command post. His transformation was nearly complete, though he still appeared to be the same quiet soldier who had cleaned his rifle in pre-dawn darkness. The difference was in his eyes, which now held depths that spoke of capabilities far beyond normal human limitations. Lieutenant Morrison tried to establish contact with surviving human forces, but the communications networks had been severely damaged by the initial Zephyrian assault. Scattered transmissions suggested that other units were beginning to mount counterattacks, inspired by reports of impossible victories against alien forces. The tide of battle was shifting in ways that defied all military projections. The enemy began concentrating their forces around remaining strategic targets, abandoning the systematic sweep operations that had been so effective initially. Zephyrian commanders were being forced to acknowledge that they faced something unprecedented, a human capability that their intelligence services had never identified or prepared for. Marcus studied tactical displays recovered from the destroyed command vehicle, his mind processing alien military data with the same ease he showed with human equipment. The Zephyrians had planned their assault with meticulous precision, accounting for every known human military capability. They had not planned for the emergence of something that transcended those known capabilities. The squad moved toward their next objective, a heavily fortified position guarding the planetary communications array. If that facility could be captured intact, surviving human forces could coordinate a planet-wide counterattack that might drive the invaders back into orbit. The position was defended by 2 full companies of elite Zephyrian warriors, backed by automated defense systems. As they advanced through the alien landscape, Marcus felt the legend growing around him like a living thing. Each successful engagement added to a reputation that was spreading through both human and alien forces. The Zephyrians were beginning to fear a name they didn't understand, while human troops were finding new hope in stories that seemed too incredible to believe. The transformation that had begun with a simple engagement against an enemy patrol was evolving into something that would reshape the entire conflict. Marcus Chen was becoming the Reaper, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant for anyone foolish enough to threaten humanity. The war was changing, and he was the instrument of that change. Soon, the name would echo across star systems as a promise to humanity's allies and a warning to its enemies. The Zephyrian Empire had awakened something in their human prey that would haunt their dreams and hunt their forces across the galaxy. The legend was only beginning, but already the universe was taking notice of what humanity could become when pushed beyond its limits. The assault on the communications array began at midnight, under the light of Kepler 442b's twin moons. The facility sprawled across several square kilometers of reinforced structures, each building designed to withstand orbital bombardment. 2 full companies of Zephyrian elite warriors patrolled the perimeter with automated defense systems that could track and eliminate targets moving at superhuman speeds. Marcus had evolved far beyond the quiet soldier who had once been overlooked by his squadmates. The transformation was complete now, though he retained the same methodical precision that had always defined his approach to military service. The difference was in the scope of what that precision could accomplish when applied to warfare on a scale that defied conventional understanding. Lieutenant Morrison watched as he studied the alien fortress through enhanced optics that revealed details invisible to normal human perception. Marcus processed defensive patterns, weapon placements, and patrol schedules with computer-like efficiency, while identifying vulnerabilities that military engineers insisted couldn't exist in Zephyrian designs. The attack began with surgical strikes against sensor networks that formed the backbone of the facility's early warning systems. Marcus moved through the perimeter defenses like flowing shadow, his rifle eliminating sentries with shots that seemed to bend around cover and obstacles. Each kill was perfectly timed to prevent discovery, creating cascading failures in the alien security grid. The first Zephyrian patrol discovered bodies of their comrades 30 minutes after the infiltration began. By then, Marcus had penetrated 3 layers of defensive systems and was moving toward the central communications hub with deadly purpose. Alarms began sounding across the facility as enemy forces mobilized to confront a threat they couldn't identify or locate. Marcus felt the weight of legend surrounding him as he advanced through corridors designed to channel attackers into killing zones. The name Reaper had appeared in Zephyrian communications with increasing frequency over the past week, always associated with impossible casualties and tactical defeats that defied explanation. Now he was about to give that name the meaning it deserved. The first major engagement occurred in the facility's main courtyard, where 2 squads of elite warriors attempted to establish a defensive perimeter around the communications building. Marcus emerged from the shadows like a force of nature, his weapon speaking with mechanical rhythm, as he moved through their formation with fluid grace that made their advanced targeting systems useless. Zephyrian warriors fell in precise sequence, their deaths creating gaps in the defensive line that Marcus exploited with supernatural timing. He seemed to know where each enemy would move before they made their decision, always positioning himself in the one location where their combined firepower couldn't reach him. The engagement lasted exactly 4 minutes and 17 seconds. When silence returned to the courtyard, Marcus stood alone among the dead while his rifle cooled in the alien night air. The facility's automated systems had recorded everything, but the tactical analysis programs couldn't explain what they had witnessed. Word of the battle spread through Zephyrian communication networks with the speed of light, carrying reports that field commanders refused to believe. A single human had eliminated 2 full squads of their most elite warriors without sustaining any damage. The recordings were verified multiple times, but the tactical implications were too disturbing for alien military doctrine to accommodate. Marcus continued toward the central hub, leaving a trail of destruction that grew with each encounter. Zephyrian reinforcements poured into the facility from surrounding positions, but they couldn't establish effective defensive lines against an enemy who seemed to exist in multiple locations simultaneously, while remaining completely invisible to their most advanced sensors. The breakthrough came when Marcus reached the communications center itself, a massive chamber filled with quantum processing arrays that coordinated Zephyrian military operations across 17 star systems. The facility's commanding officer, General Thekvar, waited inside with his personal guard and enough firepower to level a city block. The final battle was unlike anything in recorded military history. General Thekvar had conquered 47 worlds during his career, crushing resistance movements that possessed advanced technology and superior numbers. He had studied human tactical doctrine extensively and believed he understood their capabilities completely. He was wrong. Marcus entered the chamber like death incarnate, his rifle finding targets with precision that defied the laws of physics, while he moved through concentrated energy fire that should have vaporized him instantly. The Zephyrian general watched his elite guards fall one by one to an enemy who seemed to exist outside normal space-time, always where the weapons weren't aimed and never where logic said he should be. The engagement ended when Marcus stood before General Thekvar himself, his rifle aimed at the alien commander's head with unwavering steadiness. For the first time in his military career, the Zephyrian general felt fear as he looked into human eyes that held depths he couldn't comprehend. The conversation that followed would become legend throughout the galaxy. General Thekvar demanded to know what kind of weapon the humans had deployed. What technology could produce such capabilities? Marcus's response was simple and devastating in its implications for the future of the war. "I'm not a weapon," he said quietly, his voice carrying the same calm precision that had always characterized his speech. "I'm just a soldier. But when you threaten humanity, ordinary soldiers become something more." The general died with that knowledge, executed by a single shot that penetrated armor designed to withstand direct hits from starship weapons. With his death, the Zephyrian command structure on Kepler 442b collapsed completely, leaving their forces scattered and leaderless across the planet's surface. Marcus activated the communications array and broadcast a message that reached every human unit on the planet. His voice carried across the airwaves with authority that inspired hope in soldiers who had given up all chance of survival. The counterattack began immediately, with scattered forces launching coordinated strikes against alien positions that suddenly seemed vulnerable rather than invincible. The name Reaper appeared in official military reports for the first time that night, carried in transmissions that reached Terran Command and eventually spread throughout human space. Stories of impossible victories and superhuman capabilities began circulating through military networks, growing with each telling until they reached mythic proportions. Lieutenant Morrison found Marcus standing in the communications center, staring at tactical displays that showed Zephyrian forces retreating to their dropships under pressure from the human counterattack. The quiet soldier she had known for months was still there, but now he carried the weight of a legend that would reshape the war between species. The aftermath of the battle saw complete Zephyrian withdrawal from Kepler 442b. The first time in 3 years of warfare that human forces had achieved total victory against a major alien offensive. Intelligence reports from across the front lines indicated that enemy commanders were requesting detailed information about something called the Reaper that had emerged from human ranks. The transformation was complete. But Marcus remained the same methodical soldier who had cleaned his rifle in pre-dawn darkness. The difference was in what that precision could accomplish when applied to warfare against enemies who had underestimated humanity's capacity for evolution under extreme pressure. The legend spread through the galaxy with the speed of quantum communications, carrying hope to human colonies under siege, and fear to alien commanders who had never encountered anything like it. The name Reaper became a rallying cry for human forces and a nightmare for their enemies, representing something that transcended normal military capabilities. Marcus Chen had been an ordinary soldier until the moment his species needed something extraordinary. The transformation had unlocked capabilities that existed within humanity's potential, waiting for the right circumstances to emerge. The Zephyrian Empire had provided those circumstances when they chose to test human resolve on a distant frontier world. Now the galaxy would learn what humanity could become when pushed beyond its limits. The Reaper had been born in blood and fire, forged by necessity and tempered by conflict into something that would haunt alien nightmares across the stars. The war was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted in ways that would echo through history. The name would be remembered long after the conflict ended, carried in stories that inspired future generations of humans to reach beyond their perceived limitations. Marcus Chen had proven that ordinary soldiers could become legends when their species' survival depended on transcending everything they thought possible. The Reaper lived, and the universe would never be the same.